So, I have talked for a long time about my thoughts and opinions about FIFA. You probably already know what it is. A wild guess. I don't play that much. Yeah, I fucking love it. So, let's get straight into today's video, which will be, I don't even know how many things. Could be 30 or 40, I don't know. But things that we want in FIFA 23, but this isn't going to be in my opinion. This is your opinion, okay? I will go to you guys, and I will go through everything that you, the community, wants. Let's go into what you, the community, wants, because that's the main important thing. As a community, what would be the one thing that EA for next year could add to the last FIFA? By the way, if you aren't aware, I've done videos on it before, many videos on it already before, but this will be the last official EA FIFA. People are still confused, and I still see people saying the wrong things on Twitter or my Twitch live stream, but that this is the last EA FIFA, and then by the time it's the next FIFA of FIFA 24, that will no longer be made by EA, that can be made by another developer using the FIFA branding, and then EAFC will be a EA football game, but that won't be called FIFA, it'll just be called EAFC, but that'll be the EA FIFA game, if that makes any sense. Yo, do you play FIFA 22? Yeah. Is your team bang average? You absolute pathetic piece of... You saying that to the viewers? No, obviously. Ah, okay. I mean you. Do you face teams like this?
You can't keep getting away with it!
Do you know there's a way to get coins? Why are you shouting at me? Then go to userbuy.com for the cheapest and most reliable place to buy your coins on FIFA 22. Link is down below in the description, and also use code Vizeh at checkout to get a discount. 5 different football games by time it's 2025, which should be EAFC, FIFA, let's say 2K24, if 2K takes the developer for that branding, and then also eFootball, UFL, and goals. So that is the current landscape of what we're going into for the future. So that's understood. Let's get into what you guys would want for the brand new FIFA. Let's get stuck in. And also tell me down below in the comments as well, what would you guys want? Just one thing to either change or add or remove from the game. Just one thing that you guys would want. Tell me down below in the comments. And let's get stuck. So this is a tweet that I put out saying, if you would want one thing changed or added to FIFA, what would it be? With 300 likes almost and quite a lot of comments. Like a lot of comments here. So I'll go into the best samples here, the best comments that I find, and make sure they don't overlap here. Because I feel like you guys and what you guys want is the most important thing here. Because, I could go into what I want, but I may not think of things that may be involving the career mode community as much as other people. Dave says the season reward system, remove all badges and titles from it and replace it from players from across the other leagues who rarely get new cards. Grinding is only get a badge or a title is deflating and not rewarding in the slightest. Give me unique players instead. I think that's a good shout, because for the last, I think since FIFA 20, we had this season system, and no one gives a shit about these titles, or these celebrations, or these badges that no one cares, or these like stadium customization things. I think that's a really good shout. Instead of having all these dead stadium customization things that no one will ever use, why not have, for example, a player from wacky leagues like the J League, the A League, an Australian division, or in the MLS, or in just like all like the Romanian, like the Romanian divisions. Like, there's a lot of people out there in the world, and a lot of people would like to have their league, which they don't get much love, like the Polish league. I live in Poland, right? So the Ekstraklasa never gets any love. Why not have in there just random players that you can have a little bit of a boost, or some sort of cool like card design? You know how much EA loves their card designs, and why not just have that? So let's have like a for example, in the Ekstraklasa, in the Polish division, there's Łukasz Podolski. Łukasz Podolski plays for Górnik Zabrze. Why not have like an 83 rated, Podolski in there, so that people can have a pretty nice Ekstraklasa team over time? So why not in each new season, there's like 1 or 2 new players for each wacky league that people don't really use, like the Ekstraklasa, Romanian division, A League, J League, so on and so forth. Why not have that as an option? I think that'd be really cool, so that over time you can actually build quite a nice little team with these players that you collect from grinding the seasons, and it gives you a reason to go and grind out the season. I think that's a great idea from Dave, and massive shout out to him, because that's one that I've never really heard of. Laney Prop saying, man marking. You think teams in real life leave Mbappe and Benzema marked by one man? Now, in theory, I believe you can do this. You can have second man press, so you can have like, if Mbappe's on the ball attacking you, you could have You can hold a button at a second man press. You have 2-man on him. In theory, that's a thing. I feel like custom tactics, I feel like it is still very streamlined to what it used to be back in the day. So I kind of just feel like this does add the question of there should be much more in-depth tactical changes in the custom tactics. City saying have more control in player career, like wages, contract length, control over fan and teammate relationships, have interviews, sponsors and tattoos, anything to make it realistic, NBA my player type thing. This has been a shout since the dawn of time that we've always been here begging for a NBA my player type player career mode, because it is pretty much the same thing for the last 10 years, that you join any team that you want. You can maybe go through the ranks of actually going into the team, and you could be like a bench player, then maybe like a main player. And they've kind of added a few little things, like maybe the likes of you can actually be subbed on. That was a very, very stupid thing that you could never do. This year, they actually finally added it to the game, so thank you for that. But it does still feel like it is the same kind of experience. There's no relationships. There's nothing to do with, you have a contract with X amount of money, but it's nothing to do with the money. There's nothing about it at all that really impacts the game. And what's about having a contract that says, hey, you're earning 40 grand a week, when there's nothing to show for that 40 grand a week? What's the point of having that there? It feels like there's a lot that can be done. We all know there's a lot that can be done, but yet nothing ever will be, because maybe EA just doesn't see it as a priority, which is a shame. But essentially, they don't make money off it, so unless they have a way to monetize it, I just doubt it. So having a harder chance to get a great player in a FUT draft or ultimate team, so that people can appreciate getting great players. Now, this is a massive talking point in terms of, is it better that you can get a Ronaldo 10 times more easier than what you could back in the day? This is a massive talking point, because in theory, it is a good thing, because therefore casuals, pure casuals, can actually get a hand onto players that they can never dream of. Back in the day, having Ronaldo was almost like an impossibility. There's no way that you could get a Ronaldo or Messi in the same team if you aren't grinding the game like hell or get incredibly lucky in a pack. Nowadays, you can just kind of casually just play a couple of FUT champions, maybe do a few SBCs, and next thing you know, you have 200k, and you could go buy Ronaldo. Ronaldo's been below 200,000 coins since I think February. So since February, you could get Ronaldo for 200k. Right now, it's June, just turned June. He's now worth 40 odd K. So is it a good thing that you can get the better players? Now, for me, I would give the argument that I think that it kind of harmed the game cycle, because in theory, the main thing that I had with FIFA is that the satisfaction of improving your team over time, that satisfaction, that's kind of the feeling of step by step playing FUT champs, getting your rewards, and then you can maybe improve 1 or 2 players in your team, because that next step up is a quite large step. But if you work at it, you get step to step to step and build it over time. Nowadays, it feels like you can just jump up to a whole new team within 2 weeks, probably less than that. If you grind the game for a week, you can boost your team incredibly high. Therefore, by the time you are, you play the game non-stop for 2 weeks, you already have an insane team. So it feels like that kind of cycle of actually improving your team step by step feels like you've already achieved it very, very early on. So by the time you've hit that kind of feeling of, I've got an insane team of such insane cards, what happens is that you kind of feel like there's not much to really achieve anymore, because the next step up is either so far ahead, if it's the icons of the world or insane promo cards that's massively overpriced. That's the main wall that I find a lot of people hitting, that they get a team with a Neymar and a Ronaldo and an Mbappe, they get that insane team, then it's like, okay, now what? Because all these new promos is pretty much the same card, but with different faces. It's pretty much the same stats in most of these cards. It's like multiple cards with the same stats, same weak foot, same skill moves, same agility, everything, but it's just a different card in a different league. They always almost feel the same. That it should feel like you should appreciate having these insane cards, and in the same response to that, what would happen is that would then have the casuals find it much more tougher to get these cards. So what's the perfect balance? The one and only Deuce says, remove sliders, momentum, DDA, or whatever you want to call it. I just want to feel like I'm responsible for winning or losing, instead of feeling like a passenger in a RNG simulator. Now, I know I've done many videos about like, a meme in the game, FIFA funnies, that kind of thing, about having a laugh about scripting, FIFA momentum, DDA, whatever you want to call it, okay? Now, my main response to this is that you can't really go to EA and say remove scripting, because this is a thing that they've always said doesn't exist. In terms of we play and we feel like the game is against us, it is scripting. You know, there's these things that always goes against us. The ball goes through players' legs, or goes through a goalkeeper's hands. We see this and we feel like that's BS, that is scripting, right? But this isn't a thing that we can really go to EA and say, change this. Because in theory, all it really comes down to is most likely poor coding in the game. That it isn't a perfect game. Every game has some sort of glitches in it. And with FIFA, because of how often a lot of things happen in the game, it just makes it likely that once or twice in the game, it will have that weird bug that the ball goes through someone's leg. Should it happen? No, but it just happens. So I get it that remove scripting. But what is scripting? Because they're adamant that it doesn't exist. So we can't really expect anything to change there, because in their mind, it doesn't exist. Adrian next up saying, customized stadiums, not only the style, but capacity would be sick. And I kind of like that, because this could be for career mode and for pro clubs and even FUT. I kind of feel like they should be like much more like the stadiums. Everyone's stadium is pretty much the same. You have 3 different levels, I think. So you start off at a low level and you get some sort of, objectives. They can boost up to a new level, but I think there's only 3 overall, and essentially everyone has the 3rd tier level by like 2 weeks in the game. Do you want it to be smaller? Do you want it to be bigger? Do you want this stand bigger than the other? Do you want this stand to be a bit different? So one's more blocky, one's more round, one's got corners. I feel like it's kind of a nothing thing, a nothing complaint, but I do feel like it is very much, very samey, and it is a feature which has got a bit of nuance to it. It's kind of cool and funky for the first week, and you're like, oh my god, it's such a cool stadium, and I can change the colour of the seats and blah blah blah. But very quickly it gets kind of like, okay, it's the same stadium to everyone else, and it is the only difference is I could have different colour seats. Charlie says, realistic career mode transfers, sick of seeing 100 English players playing in Serie A. To be fair, I can't comment too much about this from my own experience, because I do not play career mode longer than the first 2-3 seasons. I do agree with this, because I feel like I've watched a few career modes that I just see weird transfers being done. I think Burnley is a really good example. I think Burnley, each time I see them in a career mode, they have the weirdest players I've ever seen. Like, you would think with Burnley, it's quite easy to predict who they're going to bring in. It's usually Championship or English or Irish players, typically, right? And maybe the odd, out there European talent. My player coming again saying a effing story mode for player career. Again, this would be a cool thing. This would be a great thing. Issue is, isn't this what the journey was? I swear the journey was a my player career mode, essentially, with cutscenes and the training and a storyline. But people hated it after the second one. For 17, when it first dropped, the journey, most people liked it because they had, you start off at any team in Premier League, you go on loan, make your way there, then come back. First year, no issues with the journey whatsoever. It was in the second one that it then forced you to care about things that you don't care about. So, why would I want to leave Burnley, my own team? I don't want to play for LA Galaxy in the MLS. I could not care less about playing against Seattle Sounders or Columbus Crew. I could not care less, bro. But they forced you to go play in MLS, and that ruined it for most people. If it wasn't Alex Hunter, and you can customize the face, give yourself a nickname that's your name, it's you, it's customized to you in your own story, like an NBA My Player. If that's all they did, I guarantee so many more people would have enjoyed the journey. But because it was Alex Hunter, it's kind of felt like you weren't actually playing as, your experience. Because in theory, your experience with the journey is really no different to your friends. And that's the main concern. You want your experience to feel like your own unique journey. And it didn't. And that was a sole fundamental reason of why the journey failed, that it didn't feel any different to you or your mates. And Barry thought saying a Div Rivals mode with promotion, relegation, that can be grinded infinitely, win Division 1 and get a certain pack over and over and over. Daily knockout tournaments, revamp to Team of the Week, or scrap it completely and just put promo cards in reds. And then also get rid of the 1 point for lost nonsense in champs. These are 4 things in one. So, let's go step by step here. Div Rivals mode with promotion, relegation that can be granted infinitely. I like that. Simple. What was so wrong with a Div 10 to Div 1 system in like FUT. It was simple. No one really enjoys playing rivals, and no one really enjoys the elite system. This is a fucking massive problem with how they've done the rival system, and this is it, right? People who could have been in Div 6 back in FIFA 20 or FIFA 21, people that is just dog. No offense, if people that just are really bad at the game, right? People that would have been in Div 6, Div 7, because they do exist, those same people that will be in Div 5, Div 6 last year will be in Div 2 now. Because what happens is that most of the community is in the elite division, and you cannot get relegated. So what happens is that because it's pretty much so easy to get into the elite division that you have a third of the community actually in the elite division, that what happens is that below that, what is left behind is then just kind of organically moving their way up. So you got people in the elite division that should not be in there. So in theory, I could be playing elite division, but I'm playing as a guy that should be in Div 4. Next one, DKTs. DKTs, I don't know why they got rid. I just feel like it's just a nice, more laid-back way to play FIFA. And if you add in some sort of, like, you complete a DKT, each treat is a brand new card that you can go and achieve. Like, it may not even be like a good card, just like a collector's item card. Like, it is just a card with a pretty cool design, but it is literally just like an 81 rated, let's say, for example. You get an 81 rated thread. I don't know, just do a thread. Like a cool card design, but this is a DKT thread where it's more of a card collector's item. Why not have that? So then have pretty cool requirements. So let's say, for example, you get a DKT thread card, only 81 overall, but you must use only a Brazilian team with a certain rating. Revamp the team of the week massively. What is the point of Informs? Informs is the deadest of the dead. There is no meaning to it. I cannot name you a single inform that they've dropped in the last 6 months. I cannot name you one because I do not care, I do not notice them, and no one uses them. But they drop a brand new promo each week anyway, so that might as well be the team of the week. So if they had in red picks promo cards instead of team of the week cards, I would care. I would care much more about playing FUT Champs. I would play it a lot more if there was a chance of getting red picks with promo cards in them. And then last one, get rid of the 1.4 lost nonsense. I don't know why they've done that. I do not know why they are actually... I don't get it. Why did they do this? Because it's rewarding failure. It's rewarding a loss. You get a point for rewarding a loss. What are we now? Are we Arsenal? Are we now Arsenal the video game? Why are we doing this? Okay, so please, I don't get why they even have that there in the first place. Football with Tyler says, for players' potential to need to be molded and hard to get like FM. Spot on. My main thing that I cannot really vibe with FIFA career mode is the fact that you could just get a player who is hard locked to get to a certain rating, no matter what you do, essentially. Like, they can get a bit better if you play with them and you play them a lot more. But like, man, honestly, like, I do not vibe with it at all. Like, how they do it in FIFA. For me, it just feels like it's just forced. EFC says, pay money out of your budget for stadium development. Be able to start a career mode in the current situation, like Burnley or Everton, with 10 games left to see if you could stay up. So this is two things in one. Number one is, simply put, stadium development, or in other words, facilities. Facility development, training ground, stadium. Just those two things alone is fine. Just those two things are fine. That's mean stadium and facilities, training facilities. That should be a common thing. Why is that not a common thing? How are we still playing? I'm not gonna go into it because I've said it a million times. But I'll keep it simple. In this big day of age, in a managerial football game, when there's still no such thing as facilities or staff, something has disastrously gone wrong. Simple as that. And then next up is your starter career mode in a situation like Burnley or Everton. A sample scenario mode. This was in World Cup games since back in 2010. Maybe it's been in Champions League football games. When EA made a UCL game back in 2007, they had scenario mode where you can go and play in real life settings. For example, you can go play the UCL final between AC Milan and Liverpool in Istanbul, and you can go play that second half as Liverpool. Best example, you can have a scenario mode where you can have real life like career mode challenges. You can go and join a team halfway through a year like a Norwich, which they're dead last with finance problems. They cannot bring any more players, so you have to use the players that you currently have with teams that maybe could be low on morale, low on everything, lower stats, and try to survive relegation. Why is it not a challenge mode? When I have like a difficulty setting where you have like a hardcore difficulty setting where you have like a rating between you and your staff board or the fan affinity, if it goes below a certain rating between you and your board or your fan base, so your actual fans of the club, if it goes to like below 50 or 40% of you being actually like liked by them, then you get sacked on the spot. Because I feel like there's so much leniency in terms of when you get sacked in career mode. You sell a player, more of that percentage goes to the board. You know what I mean? Like a hardcore mode. Again, more things that I'm literally just thinking of on top of my head. That would be great little things to give people more incentive to replay career mode. There's a replay value to that if you have different difficulties and different challenges. Have like a challenge where you literally will not be able to sign any players unless they are from a transfer, like a free transfer, for example, or through your youth system. Again, things on top of my head right now, which would improve the game, which I'm thinking on the spot, that would give it much more of a replay value. Just right there. Rory says one of the most incredible comments, which is change the EA servers. Absolutely. Again, it's a very out there and broad comment. However, I back this massively. I live in Poland. I get minimum 50, maybe 48 ping. 48 ping is the best of the best that I ever get playing FIFA. And that's the best of the best. So usually it's like in the 60s, right? Or 70s. And it fluctuates quite massively midway through a game. I cannot play FIFA in the same way that you can in England. I can't. It's not the same experience. It's inconsistent each game. And that's just the truth of it. If you play in a country that hasn't got a server in that country, then you would experience the same thing as me. Daniel says, referee career mode would be insane. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. I see this comment a lot over the last couple of years. Like, oh, referee mode. It would be the most boring thing ever. It would be so dead. Imagine playing FIFA without actually playing FIFA. Like, if you want to like walk around in a field with a whistle and point at things, then go to your local park. You know what I mean? Like, this would not be enjoyable at all. Better, more in-depth youth system in career mode. This is a thing which I hear a lot. And someone's like, what do you mean it's great? My 7-foot right back with no pace, defending ability, insane ball control, and the same face as 5 other players from the academy agrees. Yeah, I see that a lot. Their player faces are very, very light. There's not much variety in that really at all, is there? Revamp youth for career mode, make it more in-depth, add a youth Champions League and Premier League 2, make it possible to buy under 18 players. Youth Champions League, I get this. I get it. I feel like for a lot of people to find it more in the way, but if you can have it as like an option that if you really want to go and have like a Premier League 2 and like play with the youth setup, or at least like manage them properly, then you can. I think this is the best way to end it off, really. Therapy. I understand that completely, actually. So there you go. That is 20 or 25 things that we want in FIFA 23. Tell me down below what's one thing that you'd like to remove or add or change for FIFA 23. There's a lot that's gone into this video. I give you my thoughts on things, and hopefully you guys find this kind of interesting and almost more like a Q&A podcast kind of setting about FIFA 23, about the future. So tell me down below what more would you guys want, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe.